Okay, so, okay, one second. Sorry, go back to the PowerPoint. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Slay Student Loan Debt. Um, and I'm going to first, you know, share a little bit of my story with you, and then I'll get into the particulars on the topics that we're going to be sharing this evening. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can wait till the end and just come off mute and ask your questions. Okay. All right. So why I do this is because I believe education should not be a debt sentence. Most of us, where we pursue higher education and we take out loans because, we think, okay, I'm going to get this debt, but on the other side, there are going to be more opportunities. It's going to open doors, but a lot of times it's not. You don't get a great return on your investment. And, education really is a right. It's not a privilege. And you shouldn't have to spend the rest of your life in debt because you pursue education. This is me at my law school graduation. It's going to be 20 years in a couple weeks. I can't believe it. But when I graduated from law school, you couldn't tell me anything. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be, you know, so successful. I had big dreams. I wanted to be in the music industry. And I did get my foot in the door at some of the biggest record labels in the world. And I always tell people I went to law school because I wanted to party with rock stars, and that I did. So, you know, I spent years working in the industry, but behind the scenes, much like the artists, they're, everything looks shiny and beautiful, but behind the scenes, they're struggling, they're broke. And that's how I felt. I felt like a starving artist. It was fun, but, when I looked at my finances, it made no sense because I had 6 figures of student loan debt and other debt was mounting as well. But here are a few pictures of me partying with the rock stars. That's me and Usher. That's my favorite. Me and Common. Me and Steven Van Zandt. For those of you who don't know him, he's a guitarist with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And, we got floor seats to Springsteen on a regular basis. So literally, I was partying with rock stars. But fast forward, after almost a decade of struggle and still a mountain of debt, I ended up here. And I was so broke that I couldn't afford a lawyer. So what I decided was I was going to teach myself bankruptcy law and represent myself. And when I was learning bankruptcy law, I learned this undue hardship exception where I learned that there's a whole rule that, uh, you know, aside from the general rule that you can't discharge student loans in bankruptcy, that if you have an undue hardship, you're eligible for discharge of your student loans as well. And I was so naive that I decided, okay, I'm going to get rid of my student loans. But I had no idea what I was in for and how difficult it would be, especially 10 years ago. But I'm grateful for being so naive because otherwise I wouldn't have the courage or, the wherewithal to pursue it. People told me it was impossible. They told me I was wasting my time, but I was able to wipe out $120,000 of my federal student loans. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to the naysayers. And I'm so glad that I followed my gut and just, went for it. So after my success, I developed a passion for bankruptcy law and helping people in debt, especially student loan borrowers. And I've been doing it ever since. I was in private practice for a long time, but now I'm a staff attorney with the Legal Aid Society, and where I do similar work, bankruptcy, student loan debt relief, and I also do teaching and consulting. And I'm here teaching you guys, and I will be doing an online course as well. And I'll tell you more about that at the end. Okay, so my mission is to provide education and support for student loan borrowers. This is one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Maya Angelou is when you get, give, and when you learn, teach. And this is something that I really take to heart, and I am on a mission to liberate my people from student loan debt. Okay. So what we're going to cover tonight, we're just going to go over some of the stats, like the facts and figures about student loan debt. Then I'm going to talk about the IDR account adjustment, and the deadline there's an important deadline coming up next week that you all should be aware of. So I'll touch on that. Also, the federal student aid takeover of the PSLF program from Mohila on May 1st. And the Biden administration's new plan to deliver student loan to over 30 million borrowers that was just announced last week or 2 weeks ago. And then discharge of student loans in bankruptcy. There are new guidelines that make it way easier than it was when I did it. So if I could do it back then, you guys can do it now in 2024. Okay. So right now, the national student loan debt is at $1.7 trillion, which is more than car loans, credit card debt, and any other consumer debt other than home mortgages. 1 in 5 adults have student loan debt. 45% of Americans have student loan debt, and it's the fastest growing debt. Okay, so one of the most important things that you need to realize when you're dealing with student loans is the distinction between federal and private loans. So first and foremost, the interest rates are very different. Then the repayment options and the flexibility on the loan, availability of loan forgiveness, default consequences, and statute of limitations. So I'll go into detail. So private student loans, the promissory note is going to govern. There is going to be a statute of limitations, meaning that's the time limit that the lender has to come after you. So in New York, for example, the statute of limitations on debt collection is 3 years. So if you owe a private student loan lender on a student loan and there hasn't been any activity on the account in 3 years, then the statute of limitations has expired and they cannot sue you and collect on it. Or their claim is what they call time barred. Private student loans typically do not have income-based repayment. It's just, this is the payment, pay or else. If you're current, you can keep, just keep paying or refinance for a lower interest rate, but never, ever, ever refinance a federal student loan with a private company because you lose all the benefits. So that's one of my, caveats. Do not do that. Private student loans are usually co-signed by a parent or family member, which can cause potential problems, especially, for grandparents. That's really tough on the grandparents when the borrower falls behind and, the grandparent is only on a fixed income, like their Social Security or their pension, and they're getting harassed by Navient or whoever. So it just causes strife in the family. Other situations where there's an ex-spouse or an ex-boyfriend who co-signed, that's also very problematic. So private loans have their own troublesome things, and having co-signers is one of the biggest issues when it comes to private loans. Federal loans are guaranteed by the U.S. Department of Education. They have flexible repayment options, and there is loan forgiveness available. And there are serious default consequences. If you default on a federal loan, They can garnish your wages without a court order. They can seize your tax refund money. You know, they're not playing around, and they can collect on it without having to sue you the way the private loan would. Okay, so there are three main types of federal student loans. The FFEL loans, those are older loans. They're no longer issued, but those are like a hybrid. They're issued by a private bank, but they're guaranteed by the federal government. And if you have these types of loans, these are the types of loans you want to get rid of before April 30th if you're trying to pursue the one-time account adjustment. Okay, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. The next one is direct loans. Those are the ones that are owned directly by the Department of Education, and the government is the lender. And the last one is Perkins loans. Those are less common, and those are people for those are for people with high need, and the school is the lender. Okay. So again, the loans are either federal or private, and this is just a chart that shows the distinctions between the two that I just went over, like the interest rates, the statute of limitations, the repayment options, etc. Okay, so these are some examples of federal versus private. So the federal loans include direct loans, FFEL loans, Perkins loans, and Direct Plus loans. Private loans are Sallie Mae, Navient, Discover, Citizens, Wells Fargo, and then the fintech lenders like SoFi, Earnest, and then the loans directly from the school where the school is the lender. Okay, so the first step in figuring out how you're going to slay your student loans is to identify what kind of loan it is. Okay, so if you think you may have federal student loans, you need to go to studentaid.gov and you need to create an FSA ID and log in. You can create an FSA ID. You just need to put in your identifying information, your name, date of birth, address, social security number. It'll pull up your file, and then you can see all of your loan records there. This database is 99.99% accurate. All the information about your federal student loans will be housed there. So the balance, the interest rate, the date it was dispersed, what payment plan you're on, like literally the whole story of your federal student loans is in there. Okay. Identifying the topic. So here you'll see this is what the dashboard looks like on studentaid.gov. And then you can see your loan details, and you'll see like a breakdown of all your loans. Okay. If your loans, you don't see it on studentaid.gov, that means it's a private loan. So you have to look at it on your credit report. You can get free copies of your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. And if you do a side-by-side comparison of your studentaid.gov report and your credit report, and one of them or loans that are not on the FSA report and they're on the credit report, that means it's a private loan. Okay. Hold on. I think someone have a question. Sorry. Make sure. Sorry to interrupt. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, there are people trying to join. That's okay. Are there, sorry, are there any questions at this point? I'm going to interrupt you guys.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi, I tried to join on Google, but I couldn't get through, so I'm on the phone line.
Okay, that's no problem.
Okay. So I had a question. I actually called and I went online and I had Nelnet. It was showing up on the U.S. student loan site, but when I called for assistance, they said oh, the type of Nelnet loan that you have has been transferred over to another servicer, like Sloan Servicing or something like that,
Right.
and you have
Well,
to call them.
a lot of the
So
federal
I was,
student loans change servicers. So did you follow up with the new servicer?
well, I didn't as yet because I'm wondering, I was trying to ask, like, well, I wanted to ask you maybe, should I consolidate my loans by April 30th, or because of the fact that my loan is being transferred to another servicer again, should I just try another way to get rid of my student loans? Because I imagine once I consolidate it, then it starts fresh.
No. Well, that's the beauty of the one-time account adjustment is that when you consolidate, you're still going to get credit for all your old loans and all your payment. Like it's going to go back to the history of your oldest loan, right? So it does benefit you to consolidate. But again, I would, this is all general information. I would have to look specifically at your accounts, and you could set up a free discovery call and we could just talk about it, or a strategy session, depending on how complicated your situation is.
Mhm.
But, you know, just keep in mind that if you have old loans, Perkins loans, FFBL loans, you've been in repayment for a long time, for 10 years, 20 years, you need to get closer to forgiveness. So you want to beat that April 30th deadline. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I don't think I have enough payment years though. I've been in deferment for a long time.
Right. But that's the beauty of the one-time account adjustment. And I'll get to that in later slides.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it, is that um, you're going to get credit for time in deferment, time in forbearance. They're giving people credit for that because they know they messed up. They had people in forbearance who didn't need to be in forbearance. They could have been on a $0 payment plan, right? So they're trying to rectify the wrongs by giving people credit for that time, right? So, um,
Okay. Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. If anyone else has questions on this topic or anything I previously covered, feel free to come off mute and ask your question. And then I will. Are the slides presenting okay, you guys? Or can you guys see all the slides, or is it still? I got a message that it was stuck on the first page. Somebody type in or come off mute. Tell me. Okay, you can see everything now. Okay, perfect. All right,
Yeah,
so
I can see slide 21.
okay,
Perfect.
perfect. All
All
right.
right.
Okay. All righty. So I'm gonna go back. Okay. So again, like I said, figuring out which type of loan you have by going to studentaid.gov or pulling your credit report is the essential first step. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss the one-time account adjustment that I mentioned before. So on April 19th of 2022, the Department of Education announced this one-time account revision, right? So under the one-time revision, that means that you can only do this once. You can't just, keep consolidating and going back and getting the revision. So all the past inaccuracies, forbearance, steering, and deferments will be addressed. Okay, so borrowers may receive credit for past periods of forbearance that would otherwise not qualify as IDR payment or for public service loan forgiveness. So, if you spent, a couple years in forbearance, you're going to get credit for that. And that's going to be critical, especially if we're talking about PSLF, where the payment term is 10 years before you get forgiveness. Okay. So any months in repayment status, regardless of the payments made, the loan type, or repayment plan. So even if you had FFEL loans and you're trying to qualify for a PSLF, you're going to get credit for that time, right? So 12 or more months of consecutive forbearance or 36 or more months of cumulative forbearance. So you're going to get up to 36 months of credit. Any month spent in economic hardship or military deferments after 2013, all the months spent in any deferment, with the exception of in-school deferment, prior to 2013. Any time in repayment on earlier loans prior to consolidation of the loans in a consolidation loan, right? So even if you consolidate, you're going to get credit back to your oldest loan and your time in repayment, okay? Also, oh, sorry, I duplicated this slide by accident. Sorry. All right, so you're going to follow the 3 simple steps to loan forgiveness. Number 1 is consolidate. If you do not have direct loans or you still have some old FFEL loans hanging around, some Perkins loans, you must consolidate, and you need to do this by April 30th, because after that, there is no more of this program. This program is not going to be available anymore, or it's going to be too late to consolidate. They're going to be reviewing accounts ongoing, so people are starting to get notices and letters that their accounts or that their balances are forgiven. It's like they feel like they won the lotto, right? So they're reviewing accounts and applying credits and giving people time towards forgiveness. So after you consolidate, the next thing you need to do is enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. There are 4 available plans. The only one that matters right now is SAVE, the Saving on a Valuable Education. It's the best one. It gives you the lowest payment and the shortest time towards forgiveness. If the balance is under $12,000, the loan can be forgiven automatically after 10 years, regardless of what type of job you have. And then once you enroll in the IDR plan, you track your progress. So if you are working in public service, Mohila does have a tracker on their site, but I'm going to talk about Mohila in a minute. They are a mess. The government is taking over those accounts, and moving forward, you're going to have to track your progress directly with, studentaid.gov. Okay. So I'm just going to go through each step, in more detail. So like I said, you need to consolidate your non-direct loans, and you can do that at studentaid.gov. And if this is mandatory, if you have non-direct loans, consolidation is a must. Consolidate the direct loans with different repayment histories to maximize your credit. The deadline is April 30th. Okay, so like I said, select from one of the 4 plans. SAVE is the best option for most people. And there's also pay-as-you-earn, income-based repayment, and income contingent repayment, which is the only option for a Parent Plus loan after consolidation. But explore the Parent Plus loophole first if you have Parent Plus loans. And then there's a simple enrollment process. You can do it at studentaid.gov. It takes literally a few minutes to do. And then you're going to continue earning credit towards forgiveness. So you need to enroll in the IDR to continue accumulating credit towards forgiveness. There are general forgiveness timelines. So SAVE is anywhere from 10 to 25 years. Pay as you earn, 20 years. Income-based repayment, 20 to 25 years, and ICR is 25 years. Typically, if you only have undergrad loans, it's going to be 20 years, or 10 if you're in public service. And if you have grad school loans, it's going to be 25 years. If you have Parent Plus loans, it's going to be 25 years. Okay, so the PSLF progress tracking. So starting July of this year, your MOHELA PSLF tracker, which allows you to monitor the progress, will be migrated to studentaid.gov. Again, the government needs to take over because MOHELA has not been holding up their end of the bargain and servicing the loans correctly. Again, the IDR forgiveness progress tracking is coming soon. They are working on it, on that tool. They're bringing the tracking tool to studentaid.gov. It's still in development, but it should be available by fall. Okay. So the Department of Education will manage qualifying payment accounts for the PSLF program directly. Okay. MOHELA will no longer display PSLF trackers on their website. We strongly recommend you download information from your tracker by April 30th. So, oh yeah, I have a link to a video. I can send that to you guys later on how to download your tracker and keep your, if any of you are in public service. Okay. So from May to July, the Department of Education will temporarily suspend processing of PSLF employment certification forms. So unless you believe you'll reach the 120 during this period, we recommend you wait to file your certification forms. Okay, and MOHELA will continue to provide other servicing functions like payments, billing, repayment, and things like that. They just won't be handling the tracking. So for more information, visit studentaid.gov. Okay. Okay, so sorry, I'm gonna skip this slide. That slide I meant to delete. Forgive me. All right, so Biden's new debt cancellation plan that he announced about 2 weeks ago, he's just trying to come up with different ways. Of course, since the Supreme Court struck down his plan to cancel up to $20,000 for each borrower who met the income requirements, he has come up with other creative ways. Instead of using the CARES Act as he originally used, he's using the Higher Education Act, right? So there are a few main categories that he's addressing. These are just proposals. It has to go through a review period. None of this is official yet, but this is what he's proposing. So he's proposing cancellation for borrowers who owe more than the original loan balance, up to $20,000 of any capitalized interest. But forgiveness for borrowers who entered repayment more than 20 years ago if you have undergraduate, or more than 25 years ago if you have grad school loans. For SAVE and PSLF participants who haven't applied. So automatic cancellation, just like I mentioned before, there's no necessarily an application process. They're reviewing accounts and forgiving balances and notifying the borrowers. And the next category is for people who enrolled in low financial value programs. So there were a lot of schools out there that came up, for-profit colleges, online colleges. There were so many schools that didn't, all the person had to show for their program was debt. There was no value at all. So certain schools that fall into that category will automatically get cancellation. And then borrowers who can prove financial hardship. They haven't defined exactly what that is yet, but as time goes on and the program is implemented, after it goes through a review period, because it's still under review, and comments, like the public has the opportunity to comment on these proposed new rules. So once they go into effect, then we'll see, how they're defining financial hardship. I'm assuming it will be similar to the way they define it in bankruptcy without the person actually having to file bankruptcy. Okay. All right, so speaking about bankruptcy, my favorite topic on this, and I just want to, I guess preface by saying I know bankruptcy sounds like a scary thing, and I really debated it for a long time. I struggled with the decision. I said to myself, okay, I'm an attorney. I'm supposed to have it together. Like, I couldn't possibly file for bankruptcy. I had all these hang-ups, this stress about it, and just, a lot of anxiety. And I put it off for years, literally. And then when I finally made up my mind and got clear about what bankruptcy was and how it worked, I'm so grateful because it saved my life. It changed my life. It's just a lifesaver. It's like if you're drowning and there's a lifeline right there and you don't use it, that's insanity, right? It's like this is a tool that's available to you to give you a fresh start. So let's talk about what bankruptcy is. The fundamental goal of the bankruptcy laws is to give debtors a financial fresh start from burdensome debts. This goal is accomplished through the bankruptcy discharge, which releases debtors from personal liability from specific debts, and it prohibits creditors from ever taking action against the debtor to collect those debts. There are two types of bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is really what we think of when we think of bankruptcy, and that's a liquidation plan. That's what's called a straight bankruptcy. You get an instant discharge, and there's no repayment plan. Once the judge signs off on it, you are officially debt-free. Most Chapter 7 cases are what are called no asset cases, meaning the debtor's property is protected, right? So it doesn't literally mean that you have no assets. It just means that there are no assets that can be liquidated, that it's yours, right? So for example, the law puts in place exemptions where they recognize that you need certain things in order to be able to really get a fresh start, right? So there's a homestead exemption. In New York, you can have almost $190,000 of equity in your home and still file Chapter 7. There's a motor vehicle exemption. There's a cash exemption. There's a retirement account. You can have up to over $1 million in your retirement and still keep it and file Chapter 7. And what's tragic is that when people are in a financial bind, they drain their retirement account before they just decide they're going to file bankruptcy. And it's so sad because they could have kept that and got rid of their debt, but they used their retirement to pay off debt or to survive, and because they didn't know, right? So my point is, it's not like what you see in the movies. They're not going to come to your house and take your furniture and take your stuff. I mean, that happens in some situations, and it's just, I think, used for dramatic effect on TV. And you watch Wheel of Fortune and they land on bankrupt and they take everything away. Like, that's really not how it works. That's not how the law works. You are entitled to keep certain things, and that's how you get your fresh start. Okay. Moving on. So Chapter 13 is what's known as a wage earner's bankruptcy. So in this situation, the debtor has to have regular income in order to repay some of their debt, and it's going to be in a court-supervised payment plan within 3 to 5 years. And the debtor keeps all of their property, including non-exempt assets. All right, so let's talk about the discharge of student loan debt in bankruptcy. So student loan debt is typically not dischargeable. So in order to get rid of it, you have to demonstrate undue hardship. And there's a 3-part test. It's called the Brunner test. If you want to learn more, you can just go on Google or YouTube. It's BRUNNER. So the three-part test is number one, if you are forced to repay the loan, you would not be able to maintain a minimal standard of living for yourself and your dependents. Number two, there's evidence that the hardship will continue for a significant portion of the loan repayment period. And number three, that you made good faith efforts to repay the loan before filing bankruptcy. If you can satisfy all three of these things, you qualify for a hardship discharge. Okay. Here are a few resources that you guys can use to either research the new programs that the government is offering. If you have a particularly troublesome situation, you can reach out to the ombudsman for assistance. And I know right now they're really backed up, so it could take literally months, but it's there as a resource. All right, so here are some of the services I provide. So I help, if you are being harassed by creditors or you want to settle or negotiate a private student loans, I can assist with that. Document preparation, if you want help consolidating, doing the loan forgiveness applications, all of it is online. But if you need me to review it or if you have specific questions, I'm happy to do that. And then bankruptcy, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. And the student loan adversary proceeding, helping you navigate discharging your student loan. I also do consultations. If you're going to be representing yourself or if you have another attorney that you'd like me to speak with, like if you've retained an attorney, let's say you're not in New York, and because still, even in 2024, if you go to a bankruptcy attorney, they'll tell you, oh, you can't discharge your student loans, right? But now after hearing this presentation, you want to call your attorney and say, look, I want to try to get rid of my student loans as well, but your attorney is not sure, and say, oh, call Natalie Jean-Baptiste. She can guide you through it and she'll consult with you on it, Okay, so next week, a week from today, I'm going to be doing a masterclass, and I'm going to be going over all the topics I just discussed in more detail, especially bankruptcy, and just letting you know what the new guidelines are, how the process has been simplified, giving you a step-by-step roadmap of how to navigate that system. Also, I'll just go over the basics, like the different income-driven repayments and loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness. We'll go over the basics first, but then I'm going to really do a deep dive into the bankruptcy process. So I'm going to be doing this on Eventbrite. You can buy your tickets. If you buy your ticket to this masterclass within 24 hours, I'm taking $100 off. So early bird tickets are $49, you guys. So don't miss out. After 9 p.m. tomorrow, they're going to go back to regular price. Okay. Like I said, it's $49. I'm going to also drop the link in the chat in a minute. And if you search Slay Student Loan Debt on Eventbrite, you'll find the event there. It's already posted. Okay, here's my contact information. You can reach out by phone, by email. And if you have questions about the upcoming masterclass or anything that I just discussed, feel free. I also do free 15-minute discovery calls. So you can book that. If you need something intense or you're already in the middle of a case and you need just a more deep dive, I do have a one-on-one strategy session available on my website as well. Okay. And of course, I have to give you the disclaimer that the information provided to you today is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. An attorney-client relationship is not created by your attendance here today. All right. And that's all I got. So if you guys have questions, let me stop the share.
Hey, Natalie, we
Yeah.
couldn't see, we only got to see slide 21. That was the only one slide that was still up. Can you at least put the last slide with your information up on
Oh,
it?
yeah. Oh, my gosh. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Oh, I'm still navigating this Google Meet thing. One second. Let me just, what did I do? Oh, let me see. I gotta pull up the PowerPoint. Let's see. No. Ay. Okay, so you want to see the contact information. Oh, I'm letting people in. Oh, I just let someone in. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I was like in my own world of presenting and I didn't realize the slides weren't moving. All right, let me try my screen share one more time. Why isn't it? Okay, here we go. All right. So, can you guys see this screen with my contact info?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you can. So you guys literally, the slides weren't moving after slide 21, but were you following what I was saying? Oh my gosh! I wish somebody would have come off mute and told me the slides aren't moving. But if you guys email me, I can send you a copy of this, right? I'm not going to just like put it out there but if you want a copy of the slides, I can email that to you. Does anyone have questions about anything I covered? And maybe I can go back to that slide while you ask your question. Let me know if you guys are seeing me, following. Are the slides moving now? Can you guys see me
Yes.
scrolling? Oh,
They're
wow.
moving now.
Now they're moving.
All right. I'm still figuring out Google Meet and this share thing. Bear with me, you guys. All right. So any questions, concerns?
I just have one question. I'm just curious. Is it possible to file for the private for the bankruptcy, but if you have like a co-signer?
Yes. Okay. So when you have a co-signer, if you file a Chapter 7, meaning you're going to get rid of your loans altogether and it's going to be instant, typically the creditor may go after your co-signer, right? Like, meaning you can get out of the debt, right? But then your co-signer is still on the hook. So they may still be getting phone calls, letters, etc., even though by law, they have to leave you alone and the debt, you no longer have the debt. But that's the crazy thing about having a co-signer, is just that it complicates things. But if you do a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, your co-signer is protected for the duration of your case. And like if you're in a bankruptcy for 5 years and you're on a payment plan, like let's say for example you have a private student loan and the payment is $800 and there's no way you can afford it. They're suing you and you've just had it up to here. They're harassing your mama or your grandmama and it's a mess. So when you do a Chapter 13, you can propose a payment plan that works for you. And for the duration of the case, you're in control of the situation, right? Like, meaning you're making those payments, but you're making payments you can afford, but they have to leave your co-signer alone for the whole time you're in the bankruptcy. So even though you may not get rid of it, all of it at the end, but it still puts you in control of the situation. Does that
Okay,
make sense? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Hi,
Any
Natalie.
to schedule a discovery call, is there like a link that we have to?
Yeah, so you just go to floatdebtsolutions.com. It's on the, oh, let me go to the last slide. I can also put it in the chat.
Yeah, so I can schedule like a discovery call and see if there's anything you can assist as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Anyone?
I have another
Yeah.
question. In reference to what you were saying about the consolidation, even if you were in forbearance, I'm actually currently on an income-driven repayment that's 0. So when I consolidate, is that going to take that away? You know?
No, it won't take it away. You'll still be able to stay on an income-driven repayment plan. The beauty of consolidating for this IDR waiver is that you're getting credit for times that you didn't actually have to come out of your pocket for all the time that they kept people in forbearance. So here's the thing. People would call their loan servicers and say, look, I'm having trouble making payments. I need a forbearance, or what can you do? And then they would just put people in forbearance when the servicer, what they should have said is, okay, you qualify for an income driven repayment. Your payment can be as low as 0, right? So people lost out on years of time that they could have been working towards loan forgiveness, but they were scamming people essentially and putting them in forbearance, and the loan continued to accrue interest. So this one-time IDR waiver is to make up for that mess, right? To get people closer to their forgiveness, whether they're pursuing PSLF for the 10-year program or regular income-driven forgiveness for the 20 or 25 years.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anyone
I
else?
have
Let me
one
just.
question about the
Mhm.
consolidation. Um, are direct loans, do they have to be consolidated as well? Because I know you said something about non-direct needed to
Right.
be
So no,
consolidated.
if you have all direct loans, you're good to go. You're good to go, and all the accounts are being reviewed automatically. You don't have to like apply for anything if you're eligible. Like if you know your loan has been in repayment, or like if you add up all the time, deferment, forbearance, more than 20 years or 25 years, once they review the accounts and they get to you, because there's a whole bunch of accounts to review, if they get to you, if you are eligible, you will receive notice. But if you have old loans or Perkins loans, HEAL loans, anything other than a direct loan, you need to consolidate before April 30th.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. All right, again, I am going to be doing a masterclass next week. Early bird tickets are $49. This is the link on Eventbrite. I will also drop it in the chat. If I can get access to the chat. Hold on. Where is the chat? Okay. All right, and that's the link for the class. Hold on. You guys are putting questions in the chat. Okay, I think I answered. Oh, where to go for automatic cancellation? Well, you go to studentaid.gov to keep track of what's going on, like making sure your loans, checking out that you have direct loans. But you don't need to apply. That's why it's automatic. If your loans, if you know that you've been in repayment, if you have grad school loans, right? and you know you graduated 25 years ago from whatever grad program you were in, then potentially you're eligible for the automatic cancellation. If you happen to work for public service, then that period would be 10 years, regardless of what kind of loans you have, right? Regardless of whether you went through, regardless of whether you went to grad school or you only have undergrad loans, you would get that forgiveness after 20, after 10 years of payments. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions before I let you guys go? Oh, does it matter if the loan is subsidized or unsubsidized? No, it doesn't. It just matters like what you see when you log into studentaid.gov. It's going to describe the loan. It could be direct, unsubsidized, direct, subsidized. But as long as you have a direct loan, you know you're on the right track, right? And you're going to be eligible for the account review, and they're going to apply all that time in forbearance and deferment. Okay. All right, you guys. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'll let you go, but you know where to find me. You just go to my website, or find me on Instagram or email me. My contact information was on that slide. So anything else, like, you got me for like literally one more minute. It's almost 8. Okay, so if you want to get the slides, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Just email me at info@slaystudentloandebt.com. Okay, and I'll send you a PDF of the slides. Also, I will save the recording, and some people registered for the event, but they weren't able to attend live. I'll probably upload it to YouTube at some point, and I can share the link with you all later. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for being here and spending your Wednesday evening with me. And, I'm here when you need me. All right. Take care. Have a good evening, everyone.